Welcome everybody to the Astra VXR Nürburgring Edition, and I've got the keys to it. We're going to take it out for a drive and find out what it's like to have 300 horsepower in a front-wheel drive car from the mid-noughties. So many of you will already know what the VXR Nürburgring is, but we've done a bit of research, and from what we can tell, the VXR differed from the standard VXR with a sticker pack, and that is all. But this one has got something slightly different under the bonnet. So this car is running a lot more than standard. So this car is running 310 horsepower, and it's making that power due to a upgraded top hat with a hard pipe. It's also got an induction kit. It's got a forged recirc valve and a turbo smart actuator. And it's also got a really large induction kit. All that equates to 310 horsepower or thereabouts. Now, anyone that's familiar with these cars, and most certainly anyone who's got one on the forums, this number here, 174, that's quite significant. This car is all over TikTok, showcasing how much power it used to run. It was running over 600 horsepower, albeit with different bumpers, different wheels, and of course, a completely different engine. Back in the day, this thing used to be tearing up Santa Pod. I'll put all the links in the description so you can see it, but it's one hell of a car back in the day. This is the same chassis, the same number, albeit a slightly detuned version of that one. Inside the Astra VXR Nürburgring, the theme of stickers continues. The interior is more or less exactly the same as the standard Astra, but it's got these really nice Recaro seats, which I can confirm not only hold you well, they're actually really comfortable as well. Apart from that, it's pretty much bargain basement stuff. Very much what hot hatches used to be like back in the day. There's lots of fake carbon fibre, lots of scratchy plastics, and it's not all that nice. But it's not why you buy one of these cars. You buy one of these cars because of what it does when you're on the road. Right, my first drive of the Astra VXR Nürburgring Edition. I mean, there are sub-optimal conditions today. It's currently 1 degree, there's ice on the road, and this thing is running Michelin PS4Ss. So it's wild to say the very least. And I would say that is the thing, the overriding thing about this car. It's all about the fun. And I've never been a huge fan of Vauxhalls. The VXR range for me just never really appealed. They're more like a sledgehammer compared with the dentist drill of something like a Renault Sport Megane. But that means they're hilarious fun, and this car is no exception. Running over 300 horsepower, the front wheels are easily overwhelmed, making the car dive and jump around like nothing you've ever driven. Means it's exciting even at fairly slow speeds. So what does this car feel like on the road? Well, it's quite firm. This car is on lowering springs and shocks, but it's also got polybush. I've never been in a car that's been polybushed, and it completely transforms it. It gives it a level of alertness that I've never felt in a car. It feels really direct and really alert, but also very firm on the road. I never imagined that bushes would make such a difference to the way a car feels, but it does. And also, listen to that noise. Once we get some traction, as you can hear, that's a Cobra Sports exhaust, a 3-inch one, and it makes one hell of a racket. The good thing is, it's not actually that boomy when you lift off, and apparently on motorway cruising speeds, it's about right. And that's a rare thing for a 4-cylinder turbo. Normally their exhaust boom and make such a lot of noise that they're just impossible to live with day to day. And I think this makes a great noise and is not overly loud. I could definitely daily this. It's actually the suspension that makes it less of a daily driver. In terms of on-road performance, well, it's unquestionably one of the quickest hot hatches I've ever driven. Miles ahead of my Renault Sport Megane, and that was running around 285 horsepower. And this is just a completely different beast. Having no LSD and just a fairly basic chassis means 300 horsepower is plentiful in this car. I can only imagine when this thing was running over 600 horsepower, it must have been undrivable. I don't understand how it even got going. So what is the point of this car? Most people would look at this now and think that's just too old. They're too basic. The interior is quite terrible, and you'd be right. It is a very basic car, and it feels old. It really does. But I think that's part of the appeal for these. People are now looking back at cars before all these stupid emission changes came in, all the health and safety got involved, and they want that old school vibe. And this, for me, just feels like one of those old Corsa red tops. Really old school hot hatch vibes, and I'm here for that. Although Vauxhalls are not really my go-to car, I can definitely get on board with this. I enjoy every car, and I find this one hilariously good fun. Would I like to own one? Probably not. It's definitely not for me. But in terms of a little blast around Oliver's Mount racetrack in it, yeah. I can't think of many cars that are more fun for this kind of price point. And talking about price, the owner of this car just picked this up for £6,000. That's a ridiculously low amount of money. Yes, it needs a little bit of work. You might even be able to hear it, but there's a wheel bearing that's definitely needed replacing at the back. The top mounts need doing. They're a bit worn, but he's got them with the car ready to do. There are just little bits and pieces, which you'd expect over 100,000 miles, and quite an old car, it's going to need work. But from a price point of view, £6,000 for something this good and this fun, I think I'm struggling to think of a car that's better than it. Yes, anyone driving around in an M135i that gets in this will think you're driving around in a shed with a 2-litre turbo, and they'd be right to a certain extent. But which of you is having more fun? I'm putting money on the person in the Astra's having more fun, most definitely. And yes, it's going to upset your neighbours, but you don't buy a VXR to fit in, you buy one to stand out. That's exactly what the Nürburgring Astra does. So, what do I think of the Astra VXR Nürburgring? Well, I've had a great time driving it. Now, it's definitely not a car for me and not something I'd add to the garage anytime soon, but it's really good to experience different cars on the channel. And this one is probably the most interesting and different car I've showed yet. But if you've liked this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and hit subscribe for plenty more videos like this one to come. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
I don't care. I really, really, really don't care.